Guys, do you know what happened with Magnus Carlsen at Norway Chess 2025?
Oh my god!
Hello and welcome back. Today we have another amazing game on our hands. This one was played just recently at Norway Chess 2025 between two World Chess champions. One is current World Chess champion Norway Gukesh playing as white, and as black Magnus Carlsen, chess legend and a former World Chess champion and a current world number one. Truly wonderful and exciting game is on our hands. It was part of the 6th round of this amazing tournament, and without further ado we will go straight into the game. Domaraju opens with e5, we have e5 on the board, e4 sorry, knight to f3 for Domaraju, knight c6, and we have bishop to b5 played for Gukesh. We are in Spanish game. We have knight to f6, we have d3 for Magnus, bishop c5, and we have c3 on the board. Common thing in Ruy Lopez. One of the ideas in this position is to simply with c3 you're preparing for d4 at one part of the game. Also this bishop can escape to c2. One of the maneuvers is knight to d2, knight to f1, and knight to g3 here for white. Common theme in these sort of openings. We have castle for Magnus, castle for Domaraju, and we have d6 played here for black. White continues with h3, trying to stop this pin. We have a6 on the board, asking questions to this Gukesh's bishop. Where will you go? What will you do? In the game, bishop a4 was played. We have h6 on the board, rook to e1, a common theme to open up this f1 square. We have b5 on the board, bishop retreats to c2. This is all common things in this opening. Bishop retreats to b6 with later idea to when you reroute this knight or you put it somewhere else, you will have c5 to control the center. We have knight b to d2. Gukesh continues with his original plan. We have knight to e7. We have a4 trying to offer a trade. For now Magnus is not taking this, but he plays rook to b8. We have a d4, so finally Norway Gukesh strikes in the center, and now Magnus has the option to take or to continue his development and movement of his pieces, which Magnus did with knight to g6. We have knight to f1 with already mentioned idea, and finally Magnus strikes with c5 on the board. We have a knight to g3 here, c takes on d4, c takes on d4, and we have b taking on a4 for Magnus Carlsen. Gukesh retakes with his bishop, and now we have bishop to b7, kind of preparing and eyeing on this pawn, but for now this pawn is defended. Gukesh blocks this bishop with a d5. We have a5 on the board. Magnus continue advancing his pawns. Also later in the game, a bishop c5 and bishop b4 maneuver will be possible with anchoring this bishop here. Bishop to e3, immediately offering this dark squared bishop for a trade. Bishop c8, Magnus wants to trade, but under his conditions, and asks Norway, if you wish to, you can do it yourself. b3 on the board now, and now we have bishop picking up on e3 here for Magnus Carlsen. We have rook picking up on e3 right now, and knight to f4. A really pretty knight here placed, and for now you cannot remove it. You have this. You have to have some knight on e2 maneuvers. If you wish to remove this knight is beautifully placed, controls a lot of squares, and Magnus was feeling really confident about his position during this time, and he was right actually. Black is doing slightly better here. Check out this clip from the confession room.
Well, I know that Gukesh is a very ambitious player, so I kind of figured he would go for something kind of optimistic here. I don't understand. I don't completely understand what his concept is here. It seems to me that I just have excellent play. I can potentially open up play on the king side, and I'm doing all right on the queen side as well. Because of those pawn exchanges, I have counterplay down the b file, and yeah, knight could come to f4, possibly knight h7, knight g5 as well. So it seems to me that I'm probably not better, but at least practically speaking, it feels a bit easier to play black. So yeah, we'll see what it comes up with.
So as you can see, Magnus really had the right here, feeling really confidently. As black here, game continued with a bishop to c6. We have a rook to b4, now activating this rook and also putting pressure on this pawn here. Queen to c2 for Domaraju Gukesh. Gukesh wants to activate his queen, also wants to overprotect this pawn here on e4. Game continued with a g6 here for Magnus Carlsen, king to h1, sort of prophylactic move, and now we have bishop to a6, so Magnus activates his last piece, and now this bishop is really good here on this long diagonal. Game continued with king to a2, with queen to a2, sorry, and now computer marks this as a mistake. Computer after bishop to a6 wants king to h2, but this is some deep calculation. So queen to a2, sort of a normal move, simply attacking this pawn. And in this position, bishop to d3, Magnus finds this amazing move here. In the game, a knight to d2 was played. By the way, after bishop to d3, if you decide to take this, then queen takes on a5, and after rook takes on a5, rook will take on b3, and Magnus Carlsen has a much better endgame here according to computer, and actually the position is much better here for Magnus Carlsen. So that is the reason why after bishop to d3 this was not a possibility here for Domaraju Gukesh. Game continued with knight to d2, now trying to defend this pawn, and now we have h5 on the board, getting ready to maybe push with h4. Like Magnus mentioned, he wants to open up maybe his king side. We have queen picking up on a5, and right now Magnus decided to trade, which is the right decision here, because this is a much better endgame here for Magnus Carlsen. We have h4, Magnus continues with his idea, pressuring this knight. Of course, this knight has a little places to move in the game. Rook a4 was played for Domaraju, which is a perfectly fine move. By the way, I wanted to show you what would happen after rook to a4, which happened in the game if Magnus took this knight here. This is of course not a good move because your rook is hanging. But let's go slightly back here. After rook to a4, sorry, after rook to a4, what would happen if after rook a4, rook takes on a4, and b takes on a4? If you decide to take this as Magnus, now this looks like you gained a piece, but only temporarily. This will not work here, if you notice this, because now this knight is overloaded and you have to give up your bishop, and after knight takes on e4, this is a really good position here for white. White is actually slightly better, but this is actually a draw. So you have to be careful. After rook to a4, rook f to b8, a right continuation for Magnus now played. You leave this knight still here, you're not in rush to do anything, you are simply better. Game continued with rook to a2 for Domaraju Gukesh. It's really hard to find the right way to continue. And king to g7, Magnus Carlsen is getting ready for an endgame. We have rook to a7 with the idea to maybe later in the game somehow try to take this pawn. A rook to d4, immediately rerouting your rook and also pressuring this pawn again. Now with discovered attack, opening this bishop will cause an attack on this knight. Game continued with knight to f3, Domaraju Gukesh now attacks this rook, and now Magnus Carlsen gives up his rook, if of course Domaraju Gukesh wants to take this, but game continued with f takes on g3. I want to show you after h takes on g3 what would happen if you simply take this rook here. Now after e takes on d4, let's say now your rook is under attack, and after rook takes on g3 we have bishop picking up on e4 with a complete devastation of a position. This pawn will fall, this pawn is weak, this pawn will fall, and this is a complete lost game here for Domaraju Gukesh. That is why after h takes on g3, f takes on g3 is a must. Now knight picks up on h3, sacrificed by Magnus Carlsen only temporarily, of course. We have g takes on h3, and right now we have bishop picking up on e4, the right way to go. The idea now is that this knight is pinned. Magnus wants to pick up as many pawns as he wants, and then he will simply win this endgame. Game continued with king to h2, simply removing your king from this pin, and now Magnus continues with rook to d1. Not the best move here. Computer wants, I want to show you what computer wants. He wants bishop takes on f3. After bishop takes on f3, he wants rook to d2 check, and after king to g1, computer wants e4, immediately advancing this pawn. Now this is really hard to play up. For example, after rook to e3, computer wants this move, offering the trade here, and yeah, this game is pretty much done. This endgame is completely lost here for Domaraju Gukesh. So this is what computer wanted in this position, but Magnus Carlsen didn't make a mistake playing rook to d1, simply limiting this king. We have g4, really hard to play here as Domaraju Gukesh. Bishop picks up on d5, this pawn is simply free for taking. Magnus now has a pawn advantage and a huge positional advantage. Bishop takes, knight takes on d5, and computer here almost gives with perfect play for white, almost +3 advantage. Game continued with rook to e2 for Domaraju Gukesh. Knight goes on f4, now attacking this rook. Rook goes on c2, trying to create some counterplay, but now Magnus calmly plays king to f6. We have h4 on the board, trying to maybe create some of his own counter chances. King goes on e6. Magnus's idea is to bring this king in the center of the board, getting it closer here, so this king can help his pawns. We have knight to g5 check. King goes on d5. Magnus ignores this pawn and gives it up. Rook a5 check firstly, king goes on d4, rook a4 check, king goes on d3, and now a rook to f2. Picking up these pawns would give nothing to Domaraju Gukesh. I want to show you. So after king to d5, one of the ideas here is to take knight to f7, but rook to a5 was much better move. After now knight takes on f7, then black simply continues with rook to b3, and now this rook is getting ready to infiltrate, and there is pretty much almost almost a checkmate threat here, so it's really difficult to play. So we had rook to a2. Sorry about that. Where did we arrive here? Sorry about that. Rook to a5. We have king to d4 check. King goes back, and now we have rook to f2. f6 for Magnus Carlsen. Now computer wanted a crazy sacrifice here. f6 computer marks as a mistake. Here computer wanted actually to go f5, and rook to h8 was one of the computer's ideas to simply pressure this pawn here. f6 is a mistake which slightly weakens the position, but this is not too hard. Rook f3 check. King to e2, black still has the advantage, but it's slightly lower, but it's really difficult to play since, as you can see from the clock, the time situation is getting critical. We have rook to a2 check, we have rook to d2 offering a trade, rook takes on d2, king takes on d2, and now we have knight to e4 check for Domaraju Gukesh. Magnus continues with king to e2. We have king to g3 defending this rook, and right now we have d5. Magnus is going with his pawns, and this looks like a completely lost position. I mean, how can you save this position? Well, that is why you never resign. We have knight picking up on f6. Rook goes on f8, attacking this knight, and now we have rook to f2 check for Domaraju Gukesh. King goes on e1, and now we have knight to d7. And in this position, with 47 seconds to go, Magnus Carlsen decided to play this critical move, knight to e2, looking and calculating that this is simply winning endgame after all the trades. Domaraju Gukesh takes his chance and he picks up this, and after king takes, we have knight to f8. This knight is too far away, it looks like it, to stop these pawns, and the game continued with d4. This king is nicely guarding this king from ever reaching here, and it looks like Magnus Carlsen will promote this pawn. Knight e6, but it looks like there is no way of stopping these pawns. But after d3, game continued with knight to c5, and it looks like it's not so simple here. Game continued with king to e3, but I want to show you after this, after knight to c5, what would happen here if instead knight to c5 you go d2. Then we continue with knight to e4, and it looks like we are giving you a promotion of a queen. But we don't. If you promote to a queen, then knight to c3 is a fork, and you will lose your queen here. So if king e3 attacking this knight, then knight simply goes to an f2, again covering this square. And if you try something like with e4, we have h5 going up with our own pawns, and after g takes, you can go king to e2 again. We simply take this pawn, and if you promote to a queen, knight to c3 is a check, and you lose the game. So that is the reason why after knight to c5 we have king to e3 here played on the board for Magnus Carlsen. Knight goes on a4, a really important move with a really low amount of time on the clock. Game continued with e4, and it looks like Magnus is faster here. He will promote, but now he plays, Norway Gukesh plays h5. You cannot ignore g takes on h5, g takes on h5, and now king to d2 was played. Now after g takes on h5, let's say you play something like a d2, then the crucial idea is knight to b2 here. That is how we stop this promotion. And now if you go king to e2, now we have king to f4 move, simply stopping this pawn. And now if you go, let's say e3, we simply ignore everything and we just push h3. Now you can go king to f2, we have knight to d1 check, and after, let's say, king to e1, we simply take your pawn, and this pawn can never be promoted. This king defends this pawn here. So that is the reason why Magnus Carlsen tried with king to d2, his last hope. Knight to b2 was played, another great move by Norway Gukesh. We have e3 on the board. Just wanted to show you that after knight to b2, if you decide to, let's say, attack this knight, knight retreats to c4, and this is the crucial thing here, which stops this advancement of these pawns. d2 is a possibility, but now simply knight to e3, and let's say you go king to d6, we simply go king to f4, and again we are guarding this promotional square. This pawn will fall, and we just continue pushing our pawns. In the game, Magnus tried with e3 here. We have knight to c4 check, king goes on e2, and final move of the game where Magnus slammed the table, because it happens to all of us. Simply he was winning this game, he was playing so well, and in the end game he simply miscalculated this. He was convinced that this was a winning endgame, but it actually wasn't. This was a mistake by calculation, and Norway Gukesh found in a really short time found a way to hold these two pawns from advancing. Now, as you can see from this position, nothing works here. Simply, if you push d2, we will take your pawn, and you will never be able to promote. This knight will always stand here. If you move your king, for example, then you can go with king to e3, knight to e3, everything wins here, and this game is simply done. I really hope you enjoyed this game, and of course, if you don't know, Magnus Carlsen won this tournament. At the end, it was a crazy battle until the very end, with crazy results all over the board, and Magnus almost lost this tournament, almost finished at the second place, but twist of fate decided that Magnus Carlsen will be a winner of this tournament. And this is how this game ended, guys, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a comment, like, and share this video with other people who enjoy chess. And of course, for everything else, I'm always here. If you wish to improve at chess, you are more than welcome to check the description of this video. I'm a part of a nice chess community, and if you really want to improve at chess, they have everything: openings, middle game, tactics, how to think, how to develop a plan. So everything one chess player might need to become a better chess player, not just simply learning openings and stuff like that. So do feel free to check this out and let me know your thoughts about these comments, thoughts about this game and Magnus's reaction. I wish you a pleasant night. Bye bye.